For millions of people in this country and around the world, the future feels uncertain, the ground unstable beneath our feet. It's tempting to give in to cynicism and even despair, to stop trying.
Former President Barack Obama making a pointed message for the future, even as thousands gathered here in Chicago to celebrate the past. His rise from Chicago's South Side to the White House with the opening of the Obama Presidential Center right here. Now, former First Lady Michelle Obama also had very pointed words, praising her husband, but drawing a strong contrast with President Trump.
Failing to see the humanity in all people puts us all on a slippery slope. And once that slide starts, there's no telling where it stops. A dangerous precedent that flies in the very face of our faith and of the founding promise of this democracy, that all of us are created equal.
Of course, President Trump was not invited to be on stage with other former presidents like Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Joe Biden. But his name and his policies were really the subtext of so many of the remarks here today. Now, President Obama urged Americans to move beyond this current moment of divisiveness and find common ground. He said anything is still possible, pointing to his own improbable election as an example.
Just in case you were wondering how upset or jealous Trump must be of Obama's presidential library in Chicago, here's just a tiny example that may give us a glimpse into how he's feeling. Trump posted to Truth Social this AI-generated image of the Obama Presidential Library. He writes, "The Barack Hussein Obama Library in 10 years when fully matured." Talk about an immature temper tantrum, but you shouldn't throw stones when you live in a glass house, even if it's a glass White House. Because we don't have to wait 10 years to see Trump's projects turn into living nightmares that we, the American people, paid for. For example, look at what he did to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. That didn't take years to destroy, no. Trump did that in a matter of weeks. Not only did the pool get covered in algae, essentially making the reflecting pool green, but that blue paint that Trump was so adamant about is now chipping off in the reflecting pool. I wonder how much that's going to cost us, the American taxpayers, to repair. I never thought that paying for Trump's swamp would be on my 2026 bingo card. Alas, here we are. Instead of him draining the swamp like he promised he would, he's just creating swamps on our dime.
Trump is furious and feels humiliated as Obama's presidential library becomes a massive success. Ladies and gentlemen, while Donald Trump continues to dominate headlines with political battles, legal controversies, and daily social media attacks, Barack Obama, on the other hand, is making headlines for something completely different, building a presidential legacy that many Americans believe will stand the test of time. Now, the Obama Presidential Center is moving, it's making waves and becoming a reality, generating enormous public interest, attracting donations, and sparking conversations about history, leadership, and the future. And the comparison with President Donald Trump, they are everywhere. One president, Obama, is focused on what many supporters see as a lasting institution. Now, the other, which is the current president of the United States, Trump, it remains at the center of non-stop political conflict. Let's talk about it.
A day of such contrast today, sharp contrast between the celebration of a man who is beloved, respected, appreciated, admired, and never asked for any of it. He's just serving. He was and is a public servant, somebody who seeks to do good. One hand, and the stars, everybody, acts, performance, everybody turns out for him. Good man. On the other hand, we have got a inveterate piece of crap, piece of human garbage, the worst of us, who has to stay up all day and all night as much as he can before he nods out during meetings, tweeting about himself and trying to convince people how great he is. He's got to be his own cheerleader because he's a piece of crap. He does the cheerleading, and then whoever he can sell his, carnival barking, bullshit, gaslighting crap to, and they, can chime in behind him. What a day of contrast. Oh my God. Thanks, Barack and Michelle.
Just coming on here to say that the Obama Library opening ceremony was America's 250th celebration. If you are not tuning in to the drama, the exquisite speeches, the singing, Christina Aguilera, John Legend, if you haven't tuned in, that was, or is going on right now, is America's 250th anniversary celebration. So if you haven't tuned into it, you still have time. I think it's still going. I saw it live on TikTok, streaming on a lot of different people's feeds. But that UFC fiasco in front of the green algae, whatever that slop is that he tried to fix and basically broke, that was not the 250th anniversary of America. Obama's library celebration ceremony opening, that is the 250th anniversary celebration of America. Go watch it, find the clips. Don't take it from me. Watch it yourself. It is giving hope, joy, history, just loveliness, kindness, Americana. It's giving all of that. And nothing's gonna compare to that. Although the Knicks ceremony this morning, Mom Donnie had a great speech. A lot of the hope and joy and genuine admiration for this team and what they had done. Yes, that energy was there too. But go watch it. And then you come back, put it in the comments. That was America's 250th anniversary celebration, all in one. Okay, bye.
Michelle Obama's speech at the opening of the Presidential Library for Barack Obama is going to go viral. Part of the reason is she mentions the Peace Prize, which is going to drive Donald Trump absolutely insane because he thinks he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. But Obama is everything that Donald Trump never can be and never will be. Watch this.
You were unflappable at every turn, always focused, always calm, always looking at the long view. How absurd it is to even imagine that you might have buckled under the pressure even once, lashed out in frustration, lost your temper. How absurd it is to imagine that you might have done anything but make our family and this entire country proud. No, you were too busy. I'm not done, y'all. Not done. So much to say. You were doing the people's work, rescuing our economy, expanding health care, ending a war, ordering the bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a peace prize. Keeping us safe from Ebola, regulating the banks, standing up for marriage equality, listening to science, and comforting an entire nation in the face of unspeakable tragedies. And you did it all with such grace and class and cool that you made the hardest job in the world look like a walk in this beautiful park.
And Donald Trump is the exact opposite of everything she just said right there.
Stop what you're doing and go watch Michelle Obama's speech at the opening and dedication of the Obama Presidential Library today. It is beautiful. I teared up multiple times. First of all, the way she talks about him in a personal sense and about their relationship, like they're couples goals. Like they're really actually in love. They actually like each other. They're a true partnership. It's so beautiful and decent and wholesome and admirable. It's just beautiful. She says to him at one point, Barack, I'm going to need you to look at me before she starts like talking about their relationship. And he laughs and he's like, nope, I'm going to look down because he's trying not to cry. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then Michelle makes this joke, which is really funny, about how he won a Nobel Peace Prize and how great that is. And her tone is obviously mocking Trump. And then Hillary is sitting behind Barack, and you can audibly, like, the camera's not even on her, it's on Michelle as she's saying this, but you can audibly hear Hillary Clinton burst out laughing. It's so funny. You have to go watch it anyway, because it's just a nice reminder of what a decent human being looks and sounds like. And by the way, polling came out today, and Trump is crashing out because of this dedication today. And the polling that came out that says that 57% of the electorate views him favorably, and only 34% view Trump favorably. So terrible polling for him, great polling for Obama. And he's just watching this and just so jealous, because Melania would never say that, because he knows that he paid for her. It's a nice moment of remembering that we once had decency in the Oval Office. It's worth your time.
The Obama Presidential Center is so much more than just a library. I think because they chose Chicago, the south side of Chicago, where it's really home for them, they wanted it to be a gift. And if it had just been a museum, it wouldn't be the gift that it is today.
The goal was to create a campus that would remain relevant over decades, to make this place feel alive. The Obama Foundation assembled a storytelling committee of historians, scholars, and storytellers to serve as a resource. I was on that committee and got a firsthand look at the thinking behind the exhibits, the architecture, and the commitment to create a campus that served the surrounding community. Today, the Obama Presidential Center is more than a museum or a space for archival study. The $850 million campus has a regulation-sized basketball court, an auditorium and performance space, a recording studio for creators. And since Barack Obama worked as a community organizer in this same neighborhood, it's not surprising to see that the center also has classrooms and meeting spaces for workshops and organizing. There's a teaching kitchen and a fruit and vegetable garden, a flourishing beehive that's part of a sustainable ecosystem. Barbecue grills dot the walking paths. There's also a brand new branch of the Chicago Public Library and a children's playground.
Hey! That was fantastic.
That equipment has been stress tested by the president himself. Almost every space on this campus is open to the public, much of it free of charge. It is designed to be a magnet for people to meet and gather and organize.
Since we thought about the concept of this library, we thought about perpetual relevance. How can this be an institution that means something for the community?
So I seen Barack Obama's celebration
center rises on Chicago's South Side, a monument to who we are and who we're struggling to be. I'm Hugo Balta, executive editor of the Fulcrum, and this is today's Fulcrum Focus. The center isn't just a museum. It's a library, a public garden, a civic space, a living tribute to the American story, opening on Juneteenth. Standing before the four-story Power of Words installation, I felt the force of language, how it can lift us up towards our better angels or divide us, as we see too often today. Walking through the exhibits, civil rights, suffrage, immigrant rights, I felt pride how far we've come, and grief at how far we've fallen in this political moment. It made me ask, was the progress of the Obama years more fragile than we realized? Did we mistake hope for permanence? Then I saw Dolores Huerta honored in the democracy exhibit, a reminder that democracy isn't a destination, it's a demand, a responsibility. The center shows that democratic equality is fragile. We don't reach the top and rest. We climb again and again towards justice and a more perfect union. Walking through the center, I felt pride, pain, and resolve, because the work is worth it. What do you think? Share your thoughts. I invite you to read my full reflection on thefulcrum.us.
I miss Obama so much.
And it's why the exhibits here focus not just on policies, but on the shared values that make democracy possible. A belief in the intrinsic dignity and worth of all people, and that no one is above the law or beneath its protection. A belief in checks and balances in our government and an accountability that comes with an independent judiciary and a robust free press. A belief that our military and law enforcement owe allegiance not to any president or political party, but to the people and our Constitution. A belief in the peaceful transfer of power after the people have spoken in fair and free elections, recognizing that in a large, complicated society like ours, no group or faction gets its way 100% of the time. And a belief that qualities of character, honesty, integrity, kindness, compassion, a sense of duty, and honor, those things matter in our public dealings, just as they do in our private lives.
Oh, man, listening to him speak is just so refreshing. He's clear, he's coherent, he's not insulting anyone. I mean, his public speaking abilities, Obama, he's one of the best public speakers, in my opinion. When you compare him to Dumpy Pants, he will either look straight into the camera because that's where the teleprompter is, or he'll be just like reading until he goes off on his ridiculous rants. Obama, you just see he's looking at everyone in the audience. He's connecting with the people. And it's amazing to see an audience full of such a diverse group of people, not just a bunch of white people, white Christians in red hats. It's just, I love him. I miss him so much.
More than 40 years ago, on a late summer afternoon in 1985, I arrived here in Chicago, entering the city through the very spot where this center now stands. I can still picture myself heading down what was then Cornell Drive in a janky used car that I'd bought in New York, with all my worldly possessions stuffed in the trunk and the back seat, so I really couldn't see out of the rear view mirror, and I was a safety hazard. And I was 23 years old. I'd just been hired by a group of churches on the South Side to help organize a part of the city that had been battered by steel plant closings and chronic neglect. And I didn't have much organizing experience. Didn't know anybody in Chicago. But I had been inspired by the civil rights movement, and I knew I wanted to make a difference. And although I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do that, I was possessed with this abiding faith that if we could give people more of a say in the forces that govern their lives, if we could bridge some of the differences that drove us apart, then we could build an America where everyone counts and everyone has a fair shot and everyone belongs. Even a mixed-race kid with a weird backstory and a name nobody could pronounce. And it was here, in this city, a city of broad shoulders, that I found what I was looking for. Day by day, block by block, I got to know the people who lived here. their hopes, their dreams, their tragedies and their triumphs. I witnessed their resilience in the face of hardship and the quiet heroism of a single mom raising her kids and sending them to college on a secretary's salary, or the priest electing to stay in the city and open his doors to at-risk youth, even as most of his flock had fled to the suburbs. I learned that leadership has less to do with titles or rank or chasing attention than with helping others find their voice, reaching their potential, and sitting around people's kitchen tables or on their back porches, spending time in church basements, in barbershops. I was reminded that everyone has a story to tell if you just care to listen. Sacred stories, full of courage and humor and grace, and that each of those stories in some way connected to my own. In other words, I found my purpose here, and I fortified my faith here, and I found my community here, friendships that would last a lifetime. And I found a girl from the South Side who has been my greatest blessing. Michelle and I, our wedding reception was over at South Shore Cultural Center. You could walk from here. Our daughters were born right down the street. This is where we bought our first home. This is where our kids took their first steps. This is where I launched my candidacy for the Illinois State Senate over at the Ramada Inn on Lakeshore Drive, serving pretzels and soda, embarking on the path that ultimately and improbably led to this day. So, for me, this center could not be anyplace else. It's an expression of thanks, an acknowledgement that so much of what I hold most dear I owe to the people of this city and the people of these surrounding neighborhoods.
As I watched former President Barack Obama's presidential library ceremony opening, it made me feel a certain type of way. And as a veteran who served this country, I had long lost faith in my service to this country. To see this country go in the direction that it is going is truly disheartening. But every single time there is a sense of loss in this country, President Obama always knows how to bring the country together. Former President Obama, formerly known as the Healer-in-Chief, definitely knows how to bring healing to a country in dire need, addressing not only his base or the people that voted for him, but every American, despite your culture, your race, or your religion. This is what the country needed to hear. This is what the country needed to witness. This is what the country needs in a time of disparity, when we currently have a regime that is rolling back everything that this country has fought for, pitting Americans against Americans, continuing to divide this nation, and betraying everything our forefathers set forth for us as a nation.
I get it. I am not immune to anger or doubt. But I do know this. When we lose faith in each other, when we stop believing that voting matters, that citizenship matters, that our collective voices matter, that how we treat each other no longer matters, then we give away our power to decide our own futures. We open the door to the most ruthless, or the most careless, or the most fearful among us who see some groups and some people as more equal than others, and see government as nothing more than a way to divvy up the spoils and punish enemies and keep those who are different in their place. I do not believe that is the story of America that prevails in the end. I don't believe it because for us to give up, for us to give in now, after all this country's been through, to cynicism and division would be a betrayal of our founding ideas, a betrayal of our faith. And I remain convinced that the overwhelming majority of Americans feel the same way. That as unsettled as we are, people aren't looking for perpetual anger and division. They are looking for fairness and common sense and mutual respect. That deep in our gut, we want to find a way to turn towards each other again, not further away.
There's something fascinating about watching two completely different approaches to life during and after the presidency. Barack Obama has largely stayed out of the daily political spotlight. He appears at selected events, gives speeches, supports causes he believes in, and continues developing the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago, a project intended to preserve history while creating educational opportunities and community spaces. Now, whether someone agrees with Obama's politics or not, many people acknowledge that when he speaks, he does so with a calm, measured tone that reflects the office he once held. His speeches are often structured around broader themes, inviting audiences to think about civic engagement, leadership, and the future. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump continues to command enormous attention through campaign rallies, interviews, and social media. His supporters see him as someone who challenges the political establishment, while his critics argue that his communication style is more confrontational and often keeps political divisions in the spotlight. Now, this contrast is exactly why the internet has exploded with comparison. Supporters of Obama point to the Presidential Center as something designed to educate future generations and create long-term community impact. They see it as an investment in history and public service rather than a project centered on personal political battles. Every new construction update seems to generate another wave of positive reaction online. Many comments say things like, "That's what a presidential legacy looks like. Obama is thinking about the next generation, not the next headline." Now, whether one agrees with those sentiments or not, they reflect how many supporters perceive projects. And then there's Obama's speaking style. One reason many people continue to admire Obama is his delivery. Even years after leaving office, he often speaks in a composed, reflective manner. His supporters argue that he projects steadiness and a focus on institutions rather than on personal grievances. Now, that doesn't mean everyone agrees with his policies, but many people say his public remarks still carry what they view as a presidential tone. Now, by contrast, President Trump's style is intentionally different. His supporters appreciate his directness and willingness to speak bluntly. Now, critics, however, argue that his rhetoric can be divisive and overly focused on conflict. The difference in tone has become a frequent topic of public discussion. Another reason the Obama Presidential Center is attracting attention is because it represents more than a museum. It includes plans for public spaces, educational programs, and areas intended for community use. Supporters believe it could become an important cultural destination while contributing to economic activities in parts of Chicago. Of course, the project has also faced criticism over issues such as cost, environmental concerns, and construction challenges. Now, like many major public projects, it has not been free of controversy, but despite those debates, construction has continued, and many supporters see the project as an important part of perceiving presidential history. Now, that's why whenever new milestones are announced, comparison to Trump quietly or quickly spread online. Now, Political legacy are about more than election victories. They are about what remains years later. When future generations ask what each president left behind, many observers believe those answers will include not only policies and campaigns, but also the institutions, speeches, and public works associated with each administration. Now, for Obama supporters, the presidential center represents or symbolizes service, education, and civic engagement. For Trump supporters, his legacy is tied to reshaping the Republican Party, emphasizing broader scrutiny, judicial appointments, and an America First agenda. Now, both presidents have passionate supporters and outspoken critics. Their legacy are likely to be debated for decades. But one thing is difficult to ignore. Barack Obama still has an ability to command a room through his speaking style. Many listeners continue to find his speeches thoughtful, composed, and forward-looking. Whether at public events or interviews, he often presents himself in a way that many people associate with traditional presidential communication. Now, that image continues to resonate with many Americans. Tell me what you think. Does the Obama presidential center strengthen his long-term legacy? Do you think Obama still sounds more presidential than President Trump when addressing the public? I'm sure you know the answers to that. And years from now, which president do you believe history will remember more favorably, and why? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoy this commentary, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. This is Global Views with George. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Credit belongs to original creators.